translation contests. Just a couple of examples. The JET has one. This is a professional, sort of professional-oriented one. I have the links here. I was going to show them to you, but you should look on your own. So this is the 10th source text. That means it's the 10th time they've done this. So they do this, been doing this for years, and they do it every year. And it's actually really, really good because they take something that's a very good example of what most people do. It's like, one year I did it, it was like, here are instructions for donning and doffing like a protective suit, right? This is the way that one of the winning translations call it that. So right, just like instructions for in a disaster, time of disaster, how do you put on this suit properly? You know, this is a very critical thing, right? You have to like put the gloves inside and then tape it. You know, all of these. But there's a lot of very detailed feedback. So even if you think you have no chance of winning, if you try to do it, you'll get some feedback, and you can see the feedback of the other people who entered as well, the winning entries. And what you get for it is you get your membership to JET for a year paid for, and that's like the bottom rung prize, right? And then it keeps going up. They'll give you more stuff. The top prize, they will like fly you in from wherever you are and take you to the iJet conference for free, and you know they'll sort of give you a little parade and all things like that. Very good to get feedback. Kuroda Press. This is a newish thing. They try to put out sci-fi and speculative fiction and things like this. It's based in Japan, run by an American. And this is fun too, and you can get you can get some good feedback. But if you win, they'll put your translation in one of their next collections, right? It's mostly the things like that. And Asymptote, if you haven't seen Asymptote Journal, it's like it's an online journal that's focused on translation, and they have both like very contemporary translations from all kinds of languages, and then they have interviews with translators where they get sort of deep about things and whatever. So there was one announced last May. I'm not sure when the next one is going to be, but and it's the same sort of thing, $1,000, and you get your piece published and this kind of thing. A few things like this to get sort of recognition and at least get feedback. So right, very generally, being a freelancer or doing any kind of things involved with translation fields, you need to be able to use computers, at least very basically, fix your own problems. Research skills, you need to have more than dictionaries, but you need to have a lot of dictionaries, really good dictionaries. Right, so before I was a student here, you all know about Japan knowledge, right? Everybody? I hope so. But right, it's something we have access to here as students at the library, but I paid for it before as a contractor, which is not cheap, but it was really worth it. That's not a joke. And right, these things are, sort of self-explanatory, right? You need to be able to write a decent sentence in English, but you need to be able to write, you need to be able to adjust for what it is. If it's advertising copy, you need to make it like really sell it in English, right? And that involves a lot more changes maybe than and creativity than right technical specifications. And so when you the other end of it is that when you're doing legal things, I tried to translate patents before. It's that's sort of what I mean when you sort of you'll know when you get out of your depth, like because I can't read patents in English. I really can't. Like I can see all the words, but I think like this isn't English, right? So being able to fit into different registers and styles and things like that is important, and just knowing like how to justify your own writing decisions and your own translation decisions. Things like that can help you a lot in negotiating. Also, writing fancy emails in Japanese. This took, I'm still working on this. It's like, you know, yeah. Whatever I want to do, I have to say, "Sashite itadakimasu." Like, I can't, you know, it just, you have to cultivate that and not be nervous about it. Because if you're slow, these jobs go away. Okay. Right, I guess we're close to the end of the time. But I just wanted to talk for a minute about computer-aided translation and sort of show you how it actually works. A lot of people see this as like, you know, even on all the mailing lists and stuff, there are a lot of professional mailing lists, so I'll show you later. But in forums where translators talk to each other, this is something that comes up, and some of, it tends to be the older crowd that's, you know, they're very against something like this, or they think like, I'm too creative, or something like this, like, or they just think it's machine translation, but it's not. And it can be really helpful, especially if you're doing technical things. If you're doing things that are repetitive, but they need to be consistently repetitive, right? Again, there's creative, like in English, we try to like use a different word every time we say the same thing, right? In Japanese, that's not the norm, right? But especially when you're doing technical things or legal things, like it is in English too, even, right? So sort of getting into that mode, but this helps to do that because what CAD software does basically is, I'll show you. But it doesn't translate for you, and it doesn't really save you work, but it makes the work that you do better in a lot of cases. That's not always true, but basically, this is sort of what it looks like. It's not you just plug it in and there's a button and you say go. This is one of the more popular ones is WordFast, and there are 3 different versions. There's like a standalone version that's very complicated to use. There's a version that's a macro in Word, so you sort of install it inside Word. This is the online version. It's very easy to use. So you upload a file that's a Word file, and you can see how it sort of breaks it all out for you. And these are tags, these are format and tags. And so it'll go sentence by sentence, or like translation unit by translation unit. And the 2 main things are that it will keep track of glossary terms. So if this is a law, right, that I just picked up from Hoanabi. It will give you Taiyaku with lots of different laws and stuff like this. And then this is a legal glossary that I got from a secret source. But it's very accurate. It's very official. So you can see these are all from existing Japanese laws. These are like the teiyaku. These are the correct translations, sort of, in most of the cases, right? And so what happens? You can see that these are highlighted here, and then they're thrown up over there. And there are ways that you can, you know, with one keystroke, sort of insert all of these. And the other component is the translation memory, so that you can see that I just did this sort of twice. But as you go through, say this sentence is 50% the same in terms of character count as the sentence before, or a previous sentence anywhere, it will throw that up there. And see, this is a 100% match because it was already in the memory bank, and then I just opened this one up again. So so when things are, you know, the same phrasing, but with a different noun involved or something like this, it's very easy to keep it consistent this way. So you can see it's not a magic wand or something, right? And it's not computer translation where you're going to get gobbledygook out of there. But people have a lot of intense reactions sometimes. That's not all of it, is it? Right. Okay. We're not going to talk about theory, but right. You know, you don't have to get into very high theory or very fancy French things or something like this, but you do have to have some ideas, develop these naturally of strategies, right? You can find these a lot. Like there are a lot of books on this. I'll show you a place to find those. You have to have strategies for dealing with specific situations, and you have to be able to, again, when something looks wrong or off to someone from the other side who might not have the knowledge of English or something like that. It's usually the point, right? Because they don't know English well enough to write it. But you have to, it's a constant negotiation. So you have to be able to say why it's like that and to like explain the move that you're doing there. Right. So just very general things. Try to stay current. If you don't live in Japan, there are ways that you can get your hands on things. Because my interest is in more literary things, my aspirations lie in that direction. More asymptote, which I mentioned before, monkey business, which is something that Shibata Moriyuki and someone else, Ted Gosen, or Gusen, yeah, I'm not sure, but how to pronounce that. Anyway, this is actually funded by a grant from the Japanese government, but translating very new and exciting fiction into English. Kurodahan, people have mixed opinions, but it's interesting, and they do the science fiction and they do things like this, but they also put out a book we just looked at in a seminar. Ivan Morris's The Nobility of Failure. This is something from the 70s that had been canonical, was now out of print. They're bringing it back for better or for worse. Hai Kasoru is another sort of science fiction, speculative, mostly thing. This is what Terry Gallagher with the Enjoto self-reference engine is the name of that novel. It's actually a really interesting thing if you're into like business and weird time stuff, but it's like hard science. He's like a physicist. Read translations, read English and read translations also, because it's easy to see what you can see is wrong and figure out how to make it right from there, right? Okay, I'm just going to wrap up and tell you what these are. And like I said, I will put my email up on the board, and you guys can either email me and or we will put this on the website with the video, something like that. So you can get all the technical Japanese program here. You should check into that. JAT. You should really look around on the site, and also if you ever need a translator, there are directories there. American Translators Association. This is something where you can get certification from them, but I've never heard anyone say that it's worth anything. So, right, a point I probably should have said before, there's no like one translator certification from Japanese to English. So people use things like JLPT, Experience, sometimes ATA thing, Japan Translation Federation. That's a good place to get industry information, statistics and stuff like that. Honyaku is a Google group. It's all public. You can search and see. The thing is, you can ask any questions there, from like, what should I charge for this? I mean, but then it's like any kind of internet forum. If you go on there and ask questions that have been asked a million times, you get less of a positive response, right? And they'll say, God, search the archives. You can find every conversation that everyone has had on race, right? It's a lot to sort through, but it's a good thing to do. And if you go through and don't find the answer to your question, then people there will usually be very happy to help you. The Penn American Center is the last thing, and this is, you should really check this out, because the website has, if you are interested in a nice bibliography, like things to read for theory, whether in any kind of, either brand of theory, sort of the like politics and stuff, or just like, how do I get this over here, right? Kinds of discussions, right? You'll see on there they have a huge list that has a lot of Lawrence Venuti, who does this, his translation studies reader. That's sort of the gold standard, like beginning, getting into translation theory stuff. Also, Edith Grossman, Lydia Davis, all these people, and a lot of people who translate are writers in their own language as well. But right, looking at those kinds of things will help you, I think. I think that's all that I have. So if anyone has